Do you dream of fairies and princesses? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and welcome to the House of Mouse headlines brought to you by LaughingPlace.com, your up-to-date resource for the latest Disney news every day of the week. This episode is being released on August 11th, 2021, and here's what's going on in the world of Disney recently. The Disneyland Resort unveils its annual pass replacement, pricing and details for the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser are revealed, Walt Disney Animation is opening a new studio location, and more. It's all coming your way right after this. We are inching closer and closer to the best time of the year, the Halloween season. So now is the perfect time to grab yourself some Black Flame candle gear from Who's Its and What's Its. That's right, that infamous candle which brought the Sanderson sisters back to life in Hocus Pocus has its very own merch available. And when you use code DCTC at checkout, you can get yourself 15% off not only the Black Flame candle merch, but anything else you buy from the site as well. That's right, 15% will be taken off your order, whether you buy one thing or everything, just by using code DCTC at checkout. Find the link in this episode's description.
Here are the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
Last week, the Walt Disney Company announced that it will require many of its employees and cast members to be vaccinated. By the end of September, all salaried and non-union hourly employees in the U.S. will need to be fully vaccinated, and new hires to the company will need to be fully vaccinated before beginning employment. Meanwhile, the company is also in discussions with various unions to potentially add similar requirements to their respective collective bargaining agreements. Plans and protocols for employees outside the U.S. are also being developed at this time. Disney joins a growing list of employers requiring vaccinations for at least some of their employees, including United Airlines, Google, Walmart, and others. The Disneyland Resort has announced more reopening dates for several of its popular dining venues and offerings. First, the Minnie and Friends breakfast in the park at Plaza Inn will welcome back guests on August 12th. Then Goofy's Kitchen at Disneyland Hotel will reopen on August 18th. However, Goofy and Friends won't be hosting at the location at this time, but will return in the future. Elsewhere, the Disney Princess Breakfast Adventures at Napa Rose will return on August 26th, and Carnation Cafe at Disneyland Park will resume operations on September 16th. In other Disneyland Resort dining news, Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar is now accepting lunch and dinner reservations. The first reservations opened today for dates starting August 15th. Since reopening last month, Trader Sam's has seen some significant waits, so hopefully this new system will prove more manageable. Over at Walt Disney World, the updated Hall of Presidents at Magic Kingdom has debuted. The new show now includes President Joe Biden reciting the oath of office. Meanwhile, the Donald Trump audio animatronic, which previously spoke in the show, joins the gallery of other past presidents. The Hall of Presidents is now open at Magic Kingdom, with showtimes running throughout the day. As previously announced, the popular Magical Express offering, which carries guests from Orlando International Airport to Walt Disney World and back, is ending as of next year. In its place, Mears has announced its Mears Connect service to serve a similar role, but at a cost. Now the company has released pricing information for the Mears Connect service. Currently, a one-way reservation on the standard service is $16 per adult and $13.50 per child, while round-trip reservations are $32 per adult and $27 per child. However, Mears will offer a premium service with a limited wait time and direct service for a cost of $200 round-trip for up to 4 passengers. Each additional passenger for the premium service will cost $55 round-trip. For more information or to book your reservation for dates starting January 1st, 2022, visit mearsconnect.com. After previously teasing some details about a paid Fast Pass replacement, Disneyland Paris has now debuted its new Premier Access program. With this offering, guests can buy their way to shorter waits on such attractions as Big Thunder Mountain, Peter Pan's Flight, Ratatouille the Adventure, and more. While prices start at €8 per ride, on the system's first day, some Premier Access passes went for as much as €15 per ride, although these are subject to change. Premier Access passes can be purchased in the Disneyland Paris app, as well as at City Hall or Studio Services. Over With a slew of animated projects in the works for Disney+, Walt Disney Animation Studios president Clark Spencer has announced that a new facility will be opening in Vancouver, British Columbia. The new studio will focus on long-form series work and special projects created for Disney+, beginning with the highly anticipated series Moana. However, the Burbank studio will remain Walt Disney Animation Studios' exclusive home for feature film projects, as well as shorter-form series such as the recently announced Baymax and Zootopia Plus. Additionally, story development, storyboarding, and production design for all projects will be based in Burbank. In a statement about the expansion, Spencer said, "With Burbank and Vancouver both home to some of the world's most talented artists and technicians, we believe the storytelling and visual quality created within each location will meet the incredibly high standards we set for ourselves and audiences have come to expect from Disney Animation." The now iconic reality competition American Idol is readying for its milestone 20th season. ABC has announced that the new season of the show, which marks the 5th to air on the Alphabet Network, will once again see judges Luke Bryan, Katy Perry, and Lionel Richie, as well as longtime host Ryan Seacrest, returning to their respective roles. While the new season won't premiere until spring 2022, Idol Across America auditions are already underway. Those hoping to get a shot at being on the show can find more information at americanidol.com/auditions. Ahead of the Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 1 finale this week, Disney Plus has announced that the show will return for a Season 2. The next installment of the Clone Wars spin-off will arrive sometime next year. In a statement about the renewal, Disney Plus and ESPN Plus president Michael Paul said, "Fans have enthusiastically embraced the action and drama of Star Wars The Bad Batch, and we're excited to see the Star Wars animated universe continue to expand on Disney+. As the dedicated streaming home for the Star Wars franchise, we can't wait for the second season of this fan-favorite animated series." Elsewhere in the galaxy, Star Wars fans will have a new special on Disney Plus to look forward to this Halloween season, LEGO Star Wars Terrifying Tales. Taking place after the events of The Rise of Skywalker, the special will find Poe and BB-8 making an emergency landing on the volcanic planet Mustafa. There they encounter Vader's loyal servant, Vane, who shares 3 creepy stories linked to ancient artifacts and iconic villains from across all eras of Star Wars. Terrifying Tales will include the voice talents of Tony Hale, Christian Slater, Jake Green, and more. LEGO Star Wars Terrifying Tales is set to premiere on Disney Plus October 1st. In more streaming news, Disney Plus has announced that its new series, Doogie Kamealoha MD, will debut next month. Starring Peyton Elizabeth Lee and inspired by the classic Neil Patrick Harris vehicle Doogie Howser MD, the new show follows 16-year-old Lehala Doogie Kamealoha as she struggles to balance her personal and professional life. You can check in on Doogie Kamealoha MD starting September 8th, with new episodes releasing each Wednesday. Disney Plus has also announced that another one of its original series has been renewed for a sophomore season. The Mighty Ducks Game Changers will take the ice for Season 2 sometime in 2022. The show, which follows the popular film franchise, stars Lauren Graham, Brady Noon, Mighty Ducks veteran Emilio Estevez, and others. You can catch up on Season 1 of Mighty Ducks Game Changers, as well as the original Mighty Ducks film trilogy, streaming now on Disney Plus. In some sad news, the building that once housed Walt Disney's Laugh-O-Gram studio was significantly damaged last week when a car crashed into it. The Kansas City location was home to the animation studio Walt founded in 1921 before moving to Los Angeles a couple of years later. News of the accident was shared by the nonprofit Thank You Walt Disney, which has been working to renovate the building to be used for multiple projects, including holding a museum of animation. To learn more about the organization's efforts or to make a donation to the cause, be sure to visit thankyouwaltdisney.org. And now it's time to welcome back Kyle Burbank from laughingplace.com. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, Jeff.
How's it going, sir?
Pretty good. How about you?
Pretty good. We have some exciting Disney news to talk about. And let's start with Scarlett Johansson suing Disney over the Black Widow release. Now, this is bonkers. Johansson is reportedly suing the Walt Disney Company over the decision to release Black Widow in theaters and on Disney Plus simultaneously, saying the decision was a breach of contract. According to the film star, her contract with Disney guaranteed an exclusive theatrical release, and her payment was based in large part on the box office earnings of the film. The suit alleges that Disney intentionally intentionally induced Marvel's breach of the agreement without justification in order to prevent Ms. Johansson from realizing the full benefit of her bargain with Marvel. Now, releasing the film on Disney Plus with premiere access in addition to its theatrical release is projected to have cost Johansson more than $50 million, according to a person familiar with details of her contract. According to the suit, Johansson and her representatives tried to renegotiate her contract as soon as Disney announced the dual release plan, but Disney and Marvel were unresponsive. This is all very interesting. In an email from March 2019, included in the suit, Marvel Chief Counsel Dave Galuzzi said, "We understand that should the plan change, we would need to discuss with you and come to an understanding as the deal is based on a series of very large box office bonuses." Alrighty, during its opening weekend, Black Widow earned $80 million in the domestic box office and another $78 million overseas. It also earned $60 million from sales on Disney Plus with premiere access. I didn't think they gave out that info. I was surprised to read that.
Well, see, so that plays into exactly what I wanted to talk about. And this was the first time that they had broken out those numbers. And my assumption was that they did so because her deal was points-based and that they needed to pay her off of Disney Plus, but that's obviously not the case.
Yeah, this is crazy. Okay, the Walt Disney Company has responded to Johansson's lawsuit, according to Deadline. They supposedly said there is no merit whatsoever to this filing. The lawsuit is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Disney has fully complied with Ms. Johansson's contract, and furthermore, the release of Black Widow on Disney Plus with premiere access has significantly enhanced her ability to earn additional compensation on top of the $20 million she has received to date. Where do they get that?
I have no idea. Like, obviously we don't know what's in these contracts, but I would have assumed that once they announced the dual, I thought they would have come to an agreement before they decided to go on dual release. I kind of figured that was what was holding it up. And then, yeah, it sounds like, there was kind of an assumption that all these things would happen, and she's saying it didn't. And I don't know what Disney's saying, but that statement is, I wish I could swear on this show, but that I can't believe that they would write out a statement and that's what they decided to go with. Like, in what world was that the best move when you're working with all of these different actors? Like, yes, she's done with Black Widow at this point, but she was in 9 movies with them and she's producing that Tower of Terror movie, and they still have to get other people. Like, what talent wants to work with them if they're going to call them callous and just opportunistic when during a pandemic making money? Like, no one's benefited more from the pandemic than Disney Plus. Not Disney the company overall, but Disney Plus. So I'm just gobsmacked that that's what they went with.
This, that means the CEO signed off on this. The Disney lawyers signed off on this statement. It's a ridiculous statement, first of all. Like, the disregard for the pandemic, I'm like, all right, y'all opened parks and your state has fallen to hell, or at least your resort in Florida. Like, it's crazy to me that they would try and throw that in her face. That Tower of Terror project is dead as far as I'm concerned right now. Either that or somebody else is producing. This was bizarre. I am 100%. I will always side with the talent over the studio. The studios, they're bullies, in my opinion. They're a necessary evil, for sure, when it comes to movie releases. You can't do this without studios, but come on. It just cracks me up, and people are like, oh, didn't she make him enough money? The people who feel that way, I'm like, this has nothing to do with the dollar amount. This could be $1,000 we were talking about. It wouldn't matter to me. It's like, a contract is a contract. You can bet your butt if this were the opposite and there was some breach of contract on her end, they'd be going after her. So I really applaud her, and let's face it, I'm sure there are a lot of people who have been in similar situations with not only Disney, but many of the studios who are like, who am I? I'm a lowly little actor. There's no way I'm going to win this battle. But she was like, no, I'm going for it. And part of it is, she's a huge celebrity. But also, like you said, she did 9 films with them. She has a bit of power. And the fact that this has gone so public, honestly, the Walt Disney Company should be ashamed. This paints them in a very bad light.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I know that there's people that don't have a ton of sympathy for Scarlett Johansson, not only based on this incident, but, past whatevers. But, in hindsight, when I was talking about how I thought that the reason they were releasing the Disney Plus Premier Access numbers was because they would need to compensate her off of that number. Now it seems like they're just bragging that they took money from off the table for her. Like, it just seems even weirder.
But what does this mean? It says the release of Black Widow on Disney Plus with Premier Access has significantly enhanced her ability to earn additional compensation. That's part of Disney's official statement. So what does that mean?
I have no idea. Maybe we'll find out if this goes to court. It sounds like they want arbitration. So I don't know if we'll ever find out what happened here, or,
I hope she makes a buttload of money off of it and donates it all to, I don't know, or goes and makes a movie at another studio with it or something. I don't know. Like, I'd be so livid if I were her, and I'm sure she is. And as a fan, I'm upset. And it sounds like, although I don't think we've gotten any official statements, but have you heard, it sounds like there are some other actors that are kind of jumping on the bandwagon and being like, yeah, we've been treated this way as well.
Yeah, there were rumblings about Emma Stone. That's the only one Disney-wise that I've heard of. But people are just assuming that, if more so looking at HBO Max and being like, oh, how they just decided they're going to put everything on HBO Max this year. It's basically like kind of like the writer's strike however many years ago, where it was about new media and there was all these, new technologies that people were taking advantage of that were never written into the contract. So it's going to be another sea change where you're going to discuss what these simultaneous releases mean for the talent in terms of box office participation.
Yeah, I totally get that. Listen, the times are changing. It was a weird year. I think the thing that's most concerning here, according to Johansson's team, they tried to renegotiate when this decision was made. They weren't saying, hey, you can't do this, because most likely they recognized, yes, this is a bizarre year. This is a bizarre time. There needs to be an adjustment, but that means you also have to adjust the contract. I mean, to not do that is pretty crappy. And if they really did reach out and they were ignored, then that's like doubly crappy. And yeah, it's just all very, very messy. And I really hope there's not like a loophole decision like, well, you are getting what they said they would give you. And there is no mention of, it needed to go to theaters only in the contract, which, who knows? That could go that way. The reason why this is so important is because this will affect other studios. This goes way beyond Disney. This goes how the industry is going to work in the future. And even still to this day, I feel like when it comes to actor residuals, for folks who don't know, if you have, a spoken line in a movie, you get paid when it's, rented, when it shows on cable. I still get small checks every once in a while for Jersey Boys, of which I have like 2 lines or whatever. The fact that streaming came along and changed that. And for a long time, people weren't really getting those residuals for streaming. And that was something that needed to be fought for. That is something it's just a changing industry constantly. Conversations always need to be had. But I don't know, this felt dirty to me. It felt real dirty.
Yeah. And I mean, it could come down to something where maybe the financial terms were adjusted, and I have no idea, but I still, Scarlett Johansson would have to be so absolutely wrong in this lawsuit, even if it was, that for that response. Like, they could have just left it as, hey, this doesn't have merit, she's actually going to make more, and left it at that. But it's just really low the way they threw in the callous line.
I don't know why that was allowed. Like, that seems very off-brand for Disney to kind of like get petty with that. Like, listen, they can think it all.
Not entirely. But yeah.
Well, I mean, they can think it all that they want. I don't know any other leadership in the past that would have been like, yeah, that's a good public statement. Run with that.
The only thing, the thing that called to mind was there was that tiff that they had with the LA Times where they started barring the critics from seeing Thor or whatever. It reminded me a little bit of that. But I think this is on a grander scale. I think that was a pretty niche nerd tiff.
Yeah. I love that moment in entertainment history. If you don't know what we're talking about, Bob Iger, basically, I forget, the LA Times had written an article about how Anaheim and Disney weren't getting along. And because of it, it upset Bob Iger and the company. And they basically said, you're not invited to, what was it, Thor, you said?
I think it was Thor Ragnarok.
Okay. I love this because all of the other major publications, teamed up with the LA Times. It was like, oh, well, then you're not getting any of our free marketing. Like, you're not inviting them. Like, that is the job of the media, to, as long as they're not spreading lies, I don't think there was anything false in that article. I'd have to go back and check, and I don't think Disney was saying there was anything false. I think they were just upset that their dirty laundry was being aired. So that's a dangerous slope when a company's like, you're not invited anymore. Like, come on. Drives me crazy. I have an idea, though. There is a way that Disney could make all this money back that they're going to owe to Scarlett Johansson. And that is, how about they charge $5,000 for 2-night stays at Walt Disney World?
There you go.
We're talking about the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser. We got a lot more information about this, of course. This is the Star Wars hotel being built at Walt Disney World. Here are some of the details. We got a 2-night stay in a cabin or suite. There's ongoing, immersive, and interactive entertainment where choices determine your experience. Food and beverages on the Starcruiser, excluding alcoholic and specialty beverages, and a quick service meal at Docking Bay 7, food and cargo, or other select locations at Disney's Hollywood Studios are included. You get admission to Disney's Hollywood Studios for your planetary excursion to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. I'm surprised they didn't say Batuu there. That would have been more in story, I feel like, but whatever.
They have to toe that line between marketing and
it's true. They're like, do people know that Galaxy's Edge is Batuu? Just call it Galaxy's Edge. Anyway, you get valet parking. You get exclusive Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser data band, known to the home planet as a magic band. And guests who can manage the credits will be boarding the Halcyon Starcruiser crewed by the interplanetary travel group Chandra-La Starline. Now, why didn't they incorporate this into Star Tours? I feel like that would have been like, whatever company runs Star Tours, I guess the company's called Star Tours, but like, how cool would it have been to kind of like work those two storylines together? We got this tourism company called Star Tours, and now we got this tourism hotel. I feel like that should have been a thing.
Or maybe they're competitors. And it's not a hotel, it's a cruise.
It's
basically.
A cruise, yeah. So it would have been interesting if we see Chandra-La Starline worked into Star Tours somehow. That could be interesting. Now, here's some of the big things. I think, as far as I'm concerned anyway, the experiences are what people are probably most excited about. So you get to wield a lightsaber and face off against a remote training device in this exclusive interactive activity that is far beyond anything you've experienced before. Put your skills to the test. Now, this is what we see Luke Skywalker do in the original Star Wars film. And this is being very, very hyped. Like a lot of the effects that I feel like this has been being hyped for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that we see in a lot of the concept art and makes you wonder how they're going to actually pull it off.
I hope that they do. I hope this isn't an overpromise situation, because I feel like that would be really, really, really bad, because I think this feels like the thing that most people really want to check out, the people who are willing to put out the big bucks for this. This feels like one of the things. So we'll see. Perhaps, that cool lightsaber that we saw Josh D'Amaro playing with earlier this year is worked into this somehow. I'm not certain, but I'm going to assume that's the truth.
I think at least with the cast members. I don't know if it'll be in the guests' hands, but yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how that turns out, but we also get to explore the working bridge of the legendary Halcyon Starcruiser and learn how it functions from the crew during this hands-on experience. The crew will teach you the navigation, power, defense, and other critical systems keep the Halcyon Starcruiser safe from unforeseen galactic entanglements. These skills may even come in handy should critical situations arise later in your voyage. Ooh, some foreshadowing there. So this sounds kind of cool. We get to board a transport for a trip down to Blackspire Outpost on Batuu and continue your adventure on the remote planet. Your missions throughout Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, including your adventures on Star Wars Rise of the Resistance and Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, will influence events back on the ship. You'll be able to enjoy one-time entry to these attractions during your excursion to Batuu. It's all connected and all part of your personal Star Wars story. So is $5,000 worth a guaranteed boarding group to Rise of the Resistance? That is the big question.
I think if you're going to look at it that way, then the answer is no.
Okay, cool. So some of these prices did come out. I must say, I'm not shocked by any of this. It's definitely a high ticket price, but I think we were all expecting that. 2 guests per cabin is $1,209 per night per guest. So that's $4,809 for the total 2-night adventure. 3 guests, it goes up to $5,299 for the voyage total. For 4 guests per cabin, that goes up to almost $6,000. So, there are so many details that were released. If you want to check them all out, check out the show notes link in this episode's description. We won't get to them all, but I mean, who's paying this and how long is that price going to last?
That's pretty much what it comes down to, is I don't think that this experience is going to look exactly the same from opening day to 18 months later. I think they're going to have to dumb it down at a certain point. Like, you might get some diehards willing to pay that much off the bat, but I don't really know how sustainable this is. I think they'll have to make changes. But I will say, I think it's important to distinguish between overpriced and expensive. And at this point, we know it's expensive. Is it overpriced? I don't know. I don't think it's for me. I'm excited I would like to experience it. But when I look at all the other things I could get and experience, like, you could spend 2 weeks overseas and do it up for $5,000, or you could spend 2 nights at this. And for me, as someone who's a casual Star Wars fan, it's probably not worth it. But I'm sure that for other people, this is going to be a once in a lifetime thing that they're going to experience. And maybe they'll go with, there's one cabin that holds 8 people. So maybe if you split it between 8 people, maybe you bring your cost down a bit.
Yeah, for me, I was always looking at this going like, I probably spend that money on a Disney cruise that's like 4 to 7 days long, as opposed to, like, I think that's around the same price. I could be terribly wrong there, but I don't know, $5,000 for 2 nights is crazy to me. But, if this was a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids adventure, I'd start saving my money for that.
Although that's also not per person, though. So, like,
no, that's for 2 people. So
talked a little bit about it. If there were 4 of us and sharing a cabin, then it comes down to $1,500 each, and that's still a lot, but it's not as outrageous all of a sudden,
Yeah, you have to be a really big Star Wars fan. You either have to be a person with incredible FOMO who just was like, I need to do this because it's a new hot thing to do, or you need to be a diehard Star Wars fan. And the question is, usually the FOMO people do figure out a way to get the money for it. I don't know how many rich Star Wars people there are. Maybe we'll start seeing people sell their Star Wars collections just to get on this thing. Who knows?
That's
but
possible.
I'm giving it a year before we see the prices drop. What do you think?
Like I said 18 months, we'll see changes. I also have heard rumors that because of how the scheduling is going to have to work, that they're going to be like, the 2 nights, and then they'll have to take a day off and then do another 2 nights. And that might be why it's so expensive, but it just seems like doesn't seem very efficient to me. So I don't know why they wouldn't figure out a system where it's like half and half. Because there's 100 rooms, so I don't know why you couldn't have, 50 people arriving and 50 people, on their second day. You could have like a room like Magic Castle where you'd never see it again. You just exit a different way or something,
Yeah, it also sounds like on that third day you do leave in the morning, like right after breakfast. So like a typical hotel, they take several hours and get it ready for the next group of people. Same with the cruise. So yeah, that's interesting. Maybe that's just the way it's going to start till they test this out and see how it works. There's going to be a lot of testing involved with this. So,
And then the other problem you have to think about is repeatability. Like, if you're looking at this as a once in a lifetime thing and it's going to be, mostly the same. I'm sure some elements will change, like the build unexpected story element that's going to happen at 8:30 or whatever.
This is so unexpected.
Yeah, that made me laugh. I'm just like, oh, look, you have to schedule your spontaneity for the unexpected story moment. But yeah, I wonder how much, if we'll see like sequels, and will those sequels, quote unquote, be successful, or how much will it change from cruise to cruise?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what it's actually going to cost to go to space once they figure that thing out, because we're not too far from that.
Did you see in the FAQ, it makes clear that this is not actually going to space?
I did see that, and that's, necessary. There are a lot of dumb people in the world.
Well, I mean, going the other way, there's still a lot of people who aren't as plugged in as we are, who are still thinking of this as a Star Wars hotel. Like, oh, we'll spend a night there and then we'll go do something else, or we'll go to Magic Kingdom that day. And it's like, no, that's not what this is. So I think because Disney often speaks in such kayfabe and makes everything sound like real, that people aren't going to get that they're being serious this time and they're really going to lock you in this place for 2 days, except for when you go to Batu.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if anybody gets cabin fever, if they've figured that out or not. And
you got cabin fever.
Exactly. Nice. Muppet Treasure Island reference. I love it. Excellent. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. To me, this is hey, don't spend your 2 extra days on your vacation at Universal Studios. Spend it in the Star Wars hotel. But, it's going to be interesting. I'm very curious. I'm sure the, opening voyage will sell out. I'm very curious to see beyond that how it goes, because even like people in my life who are big Star Wars fans, like they're not even considering it at this price point, like not even being considered. So it'll be
might change once we see actual things and we understand a little bit better if it is worth it. Like I was saying, like at this point, we know it's expensive. Is it overpriced? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. Anywho, this is something that is, this is a direction Disney seems to be going more and more toward, and that is the ultra wealthy experiences, which is why I gotta be honest, I was a little surprised with our next story when I saw the prices for the new Magic Key program coming to Disneyland. This, of course, is replacing the annual pass program that they used to have. Disneyland Resort has released details on Magic Key, the replacement for the annual pass program for guests, with prices ranging from $399 to $1,399. The different Magic Keys will have varying offers and block-out date calendars, with free parking only included with the top-tier Dream Key option and 50% off parking with the Believe Key. Now, that's a big thing for me. The top 2 levels used to have the free parking, and I used to always get one of those for the free parking. But when you do the math, the Disneyland parking is $25. If you're getting 50% off, that's $12.50. That means you got to go to the park 36 times in the year to make up that difference. Of course, there are other slight variations between those 2-level passes, including some blockout dates and stuff. But for me, it's the free parking that's like the big thing. So for $450 less, I'm a tier 2 guy all the way if I were to get one, personally. One surprising thing, monthly payment options are available for each pass, but only for California residents. There's also an exclusive Imagine Key for Southern California residents. Magic Key holders will also have special events and benefits, like the Magic Key Terrace exclusively for holders located near the Golden Vine Winery. There will also be a Magic Key holder month. And these add-ons, they don't really do much for me. They don't excite me that much, but they're cool bonuses I get, but they would never incentivize me to buy into it. I don't know. What do you think of this program?
Well, if I'm going to be surprised by anything, it's how much it resembles exactly what I thought it would be like.
Yeah, I mean, this should have been called an annual pass program. It is the same thing. The big difference is you need to make reservations now, and you are only allotted a certain amount of reservations at a time. Now, I know the folks at Walt Disney World are currently dealing with this. I have friends who are not happy with this. They find it to be very, very much a pain to have to make a reservation. So I am not against the reservation system. I am a person who plans in advance. I think it's good for the park. I think it makes for a better guest experience knowing how many people will be in the park. My only concern is if reservations are not easily available. I have had enough time trying to deal with Disney customer service and book tickets and all that stuff. I'm over that. So if it's not easy to make a reservation, not even worth it for me at all.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, again, we don't know what this is going to be like. I think we know that the blockout, the reservations for the Magic Key are going to be a separate pool from what day guests use, but it's unclear if each tier has a different pool. They have different blockout calendars, but I don't know if they're different pools. So it's going to depend on how many people there are. But I was actually listening back to our conversation when they first announced that they were blowing up the annual pass holder program. And we said it'll probably be, what the Flex Pass is, where you have to make reservations. So we got that one. And then we also said, or at least I said, it was going to be, kind of akin to a single rider line where they'll take as many people as they can accommodate, but you don't know. When you join the single rider line, you don't really know how long that wait's going to be. It depends on so many factors. And I think that's kind of where we're at now, is that we don't know how many people are going to sign up for this, how many reservations are going to be available on a given day. So right now, it looks like a decent deal compared to what a lot of people were fearing, but it's all just going to depend on how crazy it gets, how hard those reservations are to come by, or whether you're going to have to make them like when that 90-day window opens.
And that is exactly why I'm in no rush to get one. I am not running out to get this. I am very, very, very curious to see what the reservation system is like. That is going to make a world of difference for me. I'm also going to be out of town for the month of December, so I'm like, it doesn't make sense to buy into it right now. I'll be losing a month. And, I'm cautiously optimistic about this. I honestly feel like that $13.99 one, they could have charged like $2,500 and they would have sold almost as many as they're going to anyway. I think if you're going with the $13.99 one, you are someone who's going to Disneyland like every weekend, if not more. And if that's the case, even at $2,500, it's still a really good value compared to a single day ticket. So I'm not upset that it's as low as it is, but I think they dropped the ball as far as what they could have charged for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it, like we're saying, it's just going to come down to it. I don't think you're going to be able to go every day. I think even every weekend might be a stretch. I think the logic was, I think that the old premium was so expensive because it was really for those edge cases of people who really were going to go every day or every weekend. And I think that this will make that a lot harder, to the point where they're like, okay, well, we can make it a little bit more accessible, because in the end, they do need to hit those attendance goals. They still need to try to fill up the park as much as they can. They just also wanted to make sure that they can do it on their terms. So it's more predictable. They're going to know how many people are showing up each day, instead of just getting run over by pass holders the first day that in August when all the blockouts lift.
But also, like, on top of that, if they continue to have a hard time staffing up the park, their attendance numbers are going to have to be lower than they normally are, because they're not going to be able to stay open for as many hours or staff as many locations or whatever the case may be. So that'll be interesting to see as well. I do feel like, we're going to look back in 10 or 15 years and be like, gosh, remember those days when you could just show up at the gate whenever you wanted and walk in, and, it wasn't a problem. Like, I hate to say it, but I feel like the best days are behind us when it comes to like being a frequent Disney parks visitor.
Well, that's also, I mean, that's been that way for a while. Like, we've romanticized the off season for years.
That's true. Overcrowded was definitely a problem. And listen, there were things that needed to be fixed with the annual pass program. There's no question about that. It's just that, it's definitely a lot different. I think there is some good to come from this, but I think that I think in some ways it's a less good guest experience, and in some ways it's better. One thing I find interesting is that there are no show rules. So if you make an appointment and you don't show up for 3 times within a 90-day period, your pass is suspended for 30 days, which good in my opinion. If you do that 3 times, you're kind of just a jerk. So yes, an emergency can come up, but like, you have up until the night before the day that you're going to cancel. So I'm all for this. This doesn't bother me. It forces you to be a bit more organized, and naturally, luckily for me, that's naturally just the way I am. It's not a problem for me, but I'm sure it's annoying for a lot of people. For reservations for Magic Key holders will come from a different pool, as you mentioned, and they go on sale August 25th. There's obviously the merch and food and beverage discounts at different levels, special experiences, Magic Key holder events, and opportunities at the festivals that they'll be having. And so there's added benefits, and let's see, the levels are $13.99, then it goes to $9.49, then it goes to $6.49, and the lowest is only $3.99. Granted, it has a ton of blackout dates, but still.
And based on some of the questions I've been seeing, I feel like we should emphasize that these reservations aren't like at Walt Disney World, where it's just a COVID thing. This is what the pass is. People seem to be confused about that for some reason.
Oh, really? That's
People don't even know they're like, what does a reservation mean? I'm like, it means
bizarre.
The same thing it means. Like,
go to a dictionary and look up the word reservation. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Walt Disney World decides to continue doing this as well. I don't know. I don't think that that's off the table necessarily. So that'll be interesting. And then they're, incentivizing people to be some of the first people to get it. If you're among the first Magic Key holders to purchase within the first 66 days in honor of Disneyland's 66th anniversary, you'll receive a special welcome package that includes unique items like a premium branded pin, celebratory button, magnet, and more. Woohoo!
Yay.
Yeah, so there's that. Yeah, I think they could have charged more. I think it could have been called an annual pass, and that would have been fine, although I understand why it's not called an annual pass.
I feel like they backtracked I feel like, they surveyed people and were going to do something completely different and then just said, all right, well, let's just do what we had, but change it to Reservations. That's the way it feels. And they're like, well, we got to give it another name now, because they don't even really use the term membership. They kept pushing that at the beginning, and now it feels like they kind of...
I feel like the word program is used. The Magic Key program, I think. So... Like I said, I'm waiting to see.
Maybe someone in the parks department realized D23 was already a thing. They're like, oh, wait, I guess we don't need a membership.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But before we get going here, I got one very important question for you. A little birdie told me, and by little birdie, I mean you texted me and told me that you checked out the Walt Disney World 15th anniversary special as you were inspired by the last episode of Disney Coast to Coast. So I must know your very quick review of it.
I thought it was a lot of fun. It's definitely... more palatable than, I don't know if palatable is the right word, but we've watched a lot of those July 4th specials. We watched like 3 of them on this past July 4th. And those just have so many different performers and stuff. I kind of liked they kind of kept it to a core group. And I liked the interplay between Betty and Bea. So yeah, I enjoyed it for all of its many flaws and funny parts.
What was the weirdest part of the special for you?
Besides misspelling Jason Bateman.
Yeah, that was weird. You got Mickey with a shootout. You got Emmanuel Lewis dancing. You got...
Emmanuel Lewis dancing. That was pretty weird. I liked B. Arthur's song, but I thought it was weird that they needed to like shoo away Betty White for that part. Just give this to you. No, maybe the thing or all the stuff at World Showcase was pretty random.
Yes,
especially when you see all the tourists watching and taking pictures while it's happening.
Did you said you recently watched a bunch of the 4th of July specials. Did you catch the one with New Kids on the Block?
Yeah. We watched that one. But my wife's favorite is the one with the Beach Boys that she remembers watching, that like they recorded it on VHS as a kid, so she watched that a lot. So, and that's where the Kokomo video comes from. The footage in the Kokomo video of them playing in front of Grand Floridian is from that special.
Alrighty, I don't know enough about the Beach Boys to know what you're talking about, but New Kids on the Block.
It's hosted by Mark Summers.
Nickelodeon fame. Excellent. And now Food Network fame. Kyle, thanks for coming on to talk about some of the latest news. I'll see you again in a couple weeks.
All right, see you then.
To read more about any and all of the stories you've heard here today, simply visit the show notes link in this episode's description. You've heard the news, and now I want to hear what you have to say about it. What do you think about the cost of the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser? Would you pay for it? Share your thoughts on that or any other topics mentioned in today's episode. Call 818-860-2569, and you may just hear yourself on a future episode of Disney Coast to Coast. The easiest way to make sure you don't miss any of the magic is by subscribing to Disney Coast to Coast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Wherever you search, don't forget, it's Disney with a Z, Coast to Coast. This episode has been executive produced by Robert Scontrino. Gain rewards like Robert by visiting patreon.com/Disney with a Z, CTC. That link, plus the DCTC hotline and some free gifts from me to you, can all be found in this episode's description. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. This podcast is part of the DePodcast Network. Learn more about this show, plus find more quality and entertaining podcasts at DePodcastNetwork.com. That's DEPodcastNetwork.com.